He's a tough street-fighting lawyer with the highest ratings for honesty and integrity. He's here for you every Saturday morning to answer your legal questions and get you the help you need. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's lawyer, Joe Ingram of Ingram Law, live from the studios of News Radio 105.5 WERC. Call in now, 439-9372. That's 439-9372, and ask Joe your legal question, or email the show at questions@joeingramlaw.com. Joe Ingram has more than 20 years experience fighting for his clients here in the state of Alabama. Joe's focus is criminal defense and family law. You don't have to face your legal issue alone. You've got Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer, on your side. In case of sensitive legal matters, you can always reach out directly to Joe at joeingramlaw.com and arrange for a private consultation. And now, Birmingham's defender of the defenseless, protector of the people, and all-around good guy, Joe Ingram.
All right. You're listening to the live legal lowdown with Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer, the street running, road running lawyer for you. Today is January 25th, 2025. The weather was better yesterday, and today, Saturday morning again, it's 22 degrees. Wake up, Birmingham. It's going to be sunny or partially sunny today. The days are getting longer. The runs will start getting longer over the next few weeks. I plan to run today until I collapse. I haven't run all week because of the weather. It'll sort of be like Seabiscuit in the movie. Run till he drops. Hang on, Jemison Trail, 805, here we come. We welcome you to join us and listen to the show on iHeartRadio or my podcast. We're live from WERC 105 FM, just off the campus of UAB. This week, we've had a lot of new cases, divorce cases, criminal cases in various counties throughout the state of Alabama. We also have a new federal case down in Mobile that is extremely interesting. I had a case this week in a county in North Alabama. The client was charged with a lot of methamphetamines. He also had a gun. He also had a serious criminal history. We did what was called a blind plea. My client was scared to death. He rolled the dice on me. 10 years probation, walked out the door to door. There you go. I was also in Anniston Municipal Court this week. Anniston starts at 7:05 in the morning. I've been there a couple of times. I forgot. I thought, no way we're going to start at 7. We did. Prosecutor walked in. I was in and out, door to door, back in my car by 8:10. I was back in Birmingham by 9:15. Client was very satisfied, very happy, and I wished every municipal court ran like that. It ran like a machine. We welcome you to become a part of our Saturday broadcast and your morning routine. Have a cup of coffee with us. If you're coming in late and you need to take an Uber home, folks, this show is meant to be informative, educational, funny, witty, hopefully caller-driven with your interests and local questions in mind. And we encourage callers to call us at 205-439-9372. 205-439-WERC, or if you have email, you can email the show live, questions@joeingramlaw.com, questions@joeingramlaw.com. If you have a personal or confidential issue that you do not want to discuss on the air or live radio, please call my office Monday, 205-335-2640, 205-335-2640, 205-506-5590, or look us up on the web, joeingramlaw.com, and we will talk to you about your case and get you in if you need a consultation. Our show is here to give you information, to give you a voice, give you a chance to call in and ask questions, to give you hope. We provide quality and valuable information and guests related to criminal and family law issues, and we'll discuss any issue that you have. If I can't help you, we'll point you in the right direction with the people that I have grown to love and know over the last 22 years in my profession. So that's where we're headed this morning. You could email us, call the show, 205-439-WERC, 205-439-9372. I practice primarily in family and criminal law in Alabama. We can talk about car wrecks. We can talk about employment law, worker comp, breach of contract, any legal issue you have. Also, we had 2 cases this week, potential cases for cryptocurrency. We're number 2 statewide talking about cryptocurrency cases. I think there's going to be a lot of those coming over the next 10, 15 years with Bitcoin and all these other subservient coins. It's like a pyramid scheme. People are taking the money and running. It's called a run and dump. So if you have a crypto case, give us a call. We handle municipal court cases all over the state. Shoplifting, DUI, possession of marijuana, drugs. If you have those cases, give us a call. We'll be glad to help you. We handle state cases all over the state, felony cases, murder, rape, robbery, sex crimes, things of that nature, drug cases. Give us a call. We also handle cases in federal courts all over the state. We practice from Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, and even Dothan. Yes, I have a Dothan case coming up. Somebody got the joke. If you have real money, we'll go to Dothan. We're going soon. Also, the legal lowdown today for the national news. I think we have to start with the first of the week. President Trump was sworn in as president, as the 47th president of the United States. He immediately went to work. He signed 200 executive orders day one. He's already freed prisoners from Hamas. Iran, Khomeini. Who's hiding in a cave? The mullahs of Iran. He wants a nuclear deal. Russia and China are playing the long chess game for the long term because Trump's short term, he's dead man walking. He's only got 4 years to do what he's got to do. He's got to refill the Teapot Dome. Biden emptied it over the last 4 years for votes. The Teapot Dome was built for national security interests, not for votes. Second, Biden pardoned his entire family. Can you imagine this? Can you picture this? Can you see this? Joe, you got to walk up to the Capitol. It's time to walk away. By the way, can you sign this really quick? What am I signing? Oh, nothing, Joe. Don't worry about it. It's a presidential pardon for his entire family. The entire family are crooks. What does that tell you? He also pardoned the entire January 6th committee. They deleted everything. If you don't remember, folks, he told Nancy Pelosi 4 years ago, I'll give you federal troops. Put gates up around the Capitol. She ignored the order. It happened. President Biden talks up about being, this is Joe. I'm Scranton Joe. I'm just working class Joe from Scranton, Pennsylvania, taking care of the middle class man. The man that's giving all the free money to the college students that make a choice to go to college. Nobody pushed you to go to college. You made a personal choice. This is the same man in 2005 as a senator that wrote the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act that prevented middle class and lower class people from filing bankruptcy. They called it a means test. The very people that he talks about, that he cares about, he cut them. It made it harder for people to file bankruptcy. People that have houses, bills, jobs, rent, food, cable, water, childcare, healthcare, daycare. People that use a legal pad. They write out their bills and expenses every month, and they usually end up in the negative. That is Joe Biden, bought out by special interests. 3, President Trump He's went to North Carolina and California both this week. He should have. California cut their own throat. California legislature Thursday took a vote to cut back some wildlife vegetation, shrubs, trees that are sticks, that are fuel for wildfires. We're not cutting our timber out here. You have to help yourself. You have to help your own country. The government is not here to save you. If you won't save yourself, who's going to help you? I don't know. This is a really big issue, really big story this week. Politico News. A top-level reporter admitted this week, 4 years ago, it came from the top-down, national, top-down story. We were told, quote, do not write, quote, tweet, text any story about the Hunter Biden laptop. It's pure Russian propaganda. Guess what, folks? Every word of it was true. Every word of it was true. 51 people that have top security clearances signed a document that said it was Russian propaganda. Thankfully, President Trump arrives to the plate. He revokes all 51 top security clearances. There you go. President Trump also pardoned the January 6 people that were convicted. Good for them. They're free. Secretary of State Rubio was sworn in this week by J.D. Vance. He's on the job. He's got to go clean up Foggy Bottom. Something tells me we have people on a world stage now that are going to be back running countries, talking to our partners, our adversaries, everybody. Last night, if you were up late, it happened late at night in the Senate. They'd love to do that. It was a 50-49 vote, cross-party lines. J.D. Vance passed the deciding vote. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, former Weekend host of the Weekend Show, is now the Secretary of Defense. Something tells me there'll be a meeting today at the Pentagon, the Watagon. Some people are going to get in a room. He's going to say, you've been off the job for 4 years. You haven't run the country. You haven't protected anybody. You've lied to the country. You've lied about the budget for 4 years. Some of you got to go. We're going to get some new chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We're going to get people that care about this country, are going to defend this country. I slept better this week knowing that than I have slept in the last 4 years. President Trump is also going to release the JFK files, RFK files, and the Martin Luther King assassination files. It's all about the same time period. It's over 60 years ago. Most of us weren't alive. Most of us weren't paying attention. A lot of books have been written on both sides of the coin. A lot of commentary, movies, everything. Not sure there's anything to be gained by this at this point. Now we're going to see how the CIA writes reports. What's doctored? Also good for President Trump this week. The head of his Secret Service personal detail is now going to be the Secret Service director. Probably going to keep him alive. Good for him. In the national news this week about entertainers, A$AP Rocky. He's a rapper. Believe he has a child or two with Rihanna. He went on trial this week for a gun charge. His attorney is President Trump's former attorney, Joe Tacopina. Right before the trial started, they offered him a plea deal. A$AP, 6 months walk. Nope, going to trial. Tacopina came out, had a hissy fit, said prosecutor withheld ballistic reports. It would have mattered. It would have made a difference. We're going to see how this case turns out. In Mississippi, they're thinking about hiring bounty hunters to find illegal immigrants to show papers on illegals. And if you're not here, get them out of here. We're always behind Mississippi. Mississippi has a lottery. Alabama still doesn't have a lottery. Also, Senator Katie Britt, kudos to Katie Britt. The Lincoln-Riley legislation report that we talked about last week is moving slowly to becoming federal law. It went through the House of Representatives. It should go through the Senate pretty quickly. I predict by maybe March 1, it becomes federal law. Good for Senator Katie Britt. Kudos, kudos, kudos. Also, Lieutenant Governor Ainsley, he wants to widen the roads south of 65 for the parking lot going towards Gulf Shores to the Redneck Riviera through Baldwin County. Just build the roads. Don't do the federal study. Just build the roads. A Dothan man was shot. A Dothan man this week fatally shot a woman. He had a long standoff with the police. He finally surrendered. I have a case in a North Alabama county. Client's charged with 30 counts of child pornography. He's being crucified on Facebook. There are two sides to every story, folks. There are a defense. Please hang on. Just to give you an update, we had a hearing in our Chris Hansen to Catch a Predator case, and we won it, the suppression hearing. I got to cross-examine Chris Hansen 2 weeks ago. That case is moving forward as well. Today, we have a great guest at 7:05, David Drinky. He is a criminal lawyer in Chicago. He's very funny, very witty. He does really good work for justice. We look forward to sharing him and sharing his stories with you and bringing him to you live. So, if you have any quick questions, we're working on that segment, the quick question of the week. We had somebody call us this week. Quick question of the week. Joe, my mother died. I'm the oldest child. Do I have to bury the body? Do I have to bury the body? I said, well, I've done one of these before. I don't want to pay for the body to be buried. I don't want to pay for the funeral. I said, we can actually sell that body to UAB Medical School of Science for money. We can make a profit. There's always a way to make money legally. So, do we have a caller? We got a caller. Anna Grace, you with us?
Yes, sir.
Anna, what's on your mind this lovely Saturday morning?
Well, my husband's left me, unfortunately, and after 25 years, he's a physician here in town. Makes about $250,000 a year. We also have a lake house. What's the first thing I need to do? It looks like I'm headed for divorce.
How long you been married? 25 years?
25, yes.
Okay. How many children you have?
2.
2 children. Have you ever worked?
No, I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
My kids just went off to college.
Okay. Is the marriage salvable?
I don't know.
Well, are y'all still living together in the same bedroom, or are you living separate lives?
He's left. He's left the home.
He left the home. Is he still giving you financial support?
Yes.
Okay, he's supporting you financially. He hadn't cut you off at the knees.
No.
Okay. Do you know where's he staying?
I have no idea, I guess, with his girlfriend.
How do you know he has a girlfriend?
Well, I'm just assuming he does. I don't know that.
Okay. Have you thought about getting an investigator?
No, but that's a really good idea. Can you help me with that?
I can tell you the man to call. I would call Spy for Rent, Spy for Rent, Spy for Rent. They do fantastic work, investigative, and they can hook you up. I can hook you up off the line with them, and they can do some investigation for you. Let me ask you this: do you know what he makes?
Yes, sir. He's a physician here in town and makes over $250,000 a year. We also have a lake house.
Okay. Do y'all own the lake house together?
We own everything together.
Okay. Well, that's good. You still have money in the joint checking account?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, I would get an investigator. I would call a divorce lawyer, such as myself. I would get tax returns. I would get income statements. And I would go put my ducks in the row, and then I would go see a divorce lawyer and let them guide you on what you need to do next with this in your situation. How old are your children? Your children gone off to college?
Can you see me this week?
I can see you this week, Anna. If you call the office, we'll set up an appointment. We'll get you to come in. I'm sorry you're going through this. Divorce is never easy. And I hope you find your voice, and I hope you get the money that you so rightly deserve after that long of marriage, and your husband that can easily afford to take care of you in the lifestyle that you're accompanied to. Okay?
Yes, sir. I've read your review, so I think you're the one I need to call. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day, Anna. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Anna, thank you for calling in, being a part of the show. I'm so sorry to hear that. That is so common this time of year. We were talking about Rocky. Has 2 kids. He's going through his trial for his gun case. And that's kind of one of the big stories this week. Also, Jennifer Lopez, we talked about her last week. She's back in the news. She's looking for a new $20 million home to live in. That's not a lot of money in her world. What's also funny is that she's got a $61 million home on the market with Ben Affleck. If you didn't know, this week, the police were called to Ben Affleck's house. Drones were flying around his house. People were checking on him. Folks, we do some drone cases. We got it on our website. You can check us out, joeingramlaw.com. Drone cases are coming. AI cases are coming. And crypto cases are coming. We're about to go to the break, traffic and weather. We'll be back just after that. This is the Legal Lowdown live Saturday morning, January the 25th, 2025 at 6:28. It's probably 23 degrees. We'll be back after the break. Have a cup of coffee. Come back. Join us. Thank you, guys. See ya.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather on News Radio 105.5 WERC.
Between the attack here in New Orleans,
what's happening in California is
major winter storms across the U.S.
It's been a rough start as we travel through the year.
navigate your day.
You're going to start seeing some real light at the end of the tunnel.
And be prepared for the rough stuff.
Because preparedness saves lives.
From start to finish.
We're going to rebuild this time. We're going to be okay.
Here, 2025. Here.
Right here.
On News Radio 105.5, WERC.
Alabama is doing a major revision of teacher certification guidelines. State School Superintendent Dr. Eric Mackey tells NBC 15.
There are certain standards that every reading teacher needs to know. There are certain standards that every science teacher in middle school needs to know, and we need to make sure that's consistent across the state.
Dr. Mackey says the current guidelines haven't been updated in decades. He says the new guidelines will help ensure teachers adhere to new priorities in the state's Literacy Act and Numeracy Act. Former Alabama U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions is praising President Trump despite their falling out after he was Trump's first attorney general. Sessions telling AL.com Thursday the president continues the same America First agenda that earned his support nearly 10 years ago. I'm Charlie O'Brien, and this is Birmingham's news, traffic, and weather station, News Radio 105.5, WERC.
For today, mostly sunny, a high near 49 degrees, lows near 29. For tonight, we'll stay dry during the day tomorrow, a high of 48, increasing clouds. A chance for rain tomorrow night, a low near 38. Showers move out early Monday, some leftover clouds, a high near 51. Still dry on Tuesday, highs in the 50s. And for Wednesday, more clouds, a chance for rain Wednesday night. I'm WBRC First Alert Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt on your side.
Right now, it's 22 degrees at Birmingham's news, traffic, and weather station, News Radio 105.5 WERC.
Hundreds of stone-top countertops to choose from at wholesale prices. IGSgranite.com.
News Radio 105.5 WERC.
Listen on the free iHeartRadio app for all your news, music, sports, talk, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's lawyer, Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts, specializing in criminal defense and family law. Call in live with your questions now at 439-9372. That's 439-9372. Or write Joe with your question for the show at questions@joeingramlaw.com. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
Okay, it's 6:35. We're back. Saturday morning, 23 degrees. New York, 7:34 a.m. London, 12:34. Paris, 1:34. Beijing, 8:34. Beijing. I love it. China. If you're in Tokyo, Japan, having some really good steak, they have the best beef in Japan. 9:34 p.m. It's Saturday, January 25th, 2025. This is the Legal Lowdown Live with Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer, the road running street lawyer here for you. Talking about criminal law, family law, car wrecks, personal injury, employment law. We've had cryptocurrency cases this week. We have some drone cases coming up. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about. Our phone number is 205-439-WERC. Again, 205-439-9372. You can email us at the show live, questions@joeingramlaw.com, questions@joeingramlaw.com. Also, story of the week. We have a guest coming up at 7:05. Great guest, lawyer from Chicago. You're going to really enjoy him, folks. He's got an interesting story to tell. If you stick around at the top of the hour, you're going to love him. It's 6:35. I hope you've had your first cup of coffee. You're getting up. It's cold outside. You're thinking about running. I'm going to run today. I'm going to run like Seabiscuit, the movie, when they turn him loose. Turn me loose at 8:10 and see how far I go today. I have so much pent-up stress, adrenaline, corticosteroids. I'm going to run until I drop today. Live or die, ride or die, I'm running till I drop. Story of the week. Had a case years ago, federal court. Client allegedly made a bunch of counterfeit money. Not just a little bit. Garbage bags of counterfeit money to go buy cocaine. Powder cocaine packed up in sealed bags. He shows up. They make the exchange. They didn't think the money's real, but they took it because they wanted to sell the cocaine, the kilos. My guy goes down to McDonald's. First stop. You got Ziploc bags of cocaine. And the first thing you do, you stop and get a McFlurry. He gives someone at a drive-thru at McDonald's $100 bill. Now, folks, everybody knows what a new $100 bill looks like. It has all the markings. It's crisp. You can tell. They also can take a little highlighter and tell if it's counterfeit. She didn't have the highlighter. She took the $100 bill. He got his McFlurry. He got about 12 miles down the road. Then they start chasing him like 911 gangbusters. And he gets caught. Kilos of cocaine in his car. Not only that, he's got people out trying to kill him because he traded fake money for kilos of cocaine. So he gets indicted. He gets charged in federal court. I'm hiding him out all over the countryside, except from the feds, because we have to give his location. We finally work out a really good deal for him. I go find a case from the Fifth Circuit. And I kind of tee it up with the U.S. attorney and the federal judge. Hey, you can't hit him with the enhancements under the United States sentencing guidelines for enhancements. He didn't know he was making federal currency, counterfeit money. It looked pretty real. It looked pretty good. I would have bought it. Anyway, we go to the sentencing. Waiting. The judge had been on the bench just a couple of years. Mr. Ingram, where's your client? I have no idea. When did you last speak to your client? Couple of days ago. We'll get back to you. Go home. They find him about a day later, the U.S. Marshals. He was not hard to find. He was at home. He was scared. He's afraid to come to sentencing. Judge said, I want to see the currency. U.S. attorney says, I don't have the evidence. This is a sentencing. The judge said, go get it. I want to see it. I'm a federal judge. So they go across the street to the Secret Service building. It's wrapped up in evidence technician locker. They come across the street with white gloves on. You thought they would bring in a nuclear code. Judge said, bring me the money. They take it down to the federal bench, to the podium. She looks at it. They said, well, you have to have white gloves on. She said, I'm a federal judge. Does it matter? Are you ever going to use it again? Is it going in circulation? Oh, no, Your Honor. Well, give me the money. She looks at the money. Mr. Ingram, would you like to come look at the money? I said, well, I've actually looked at it once, but yeah, I would be glad to look at it again, Your Honor, just for the fun of it. I said, it looks real to me. It passed the smell test. She said, yeah, this is real money. She said, you had a really good lawyer. He's got a really good argument he's written on paper here. In fact, it's believable. Even though it's the Fifth Circuit, it's what we call the heartland of America in the appellate federal circuit level. And she was going to grant my motions. She wanted to, legally. It's the right thing to do. She also tattooed my guy because he didn't show up for federal sentencing. You don't do that. That's a no-no in federal court. The train runs on time. So he got hammered that day. He got a couple of years in federal prison for making counterfeit money. That is one story of the week. So at 6:44 on a Saturday morning, January 25th, 2025, it's probably 23 degrees outside. When I get up out of here, the sun will be up. We're going to run like Seabiscuit. Here we come, Birmingham. This is the Legal Lowdown live with Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer. You can call us 205-439-9372, 205-439-WERC, or you can email the show, questions@joeingramlaw.com, questions@joeingramlaw.com. Somebody just emailed the show, question about residency and divorce. How long do I have to live in Alabama to file divorce here? My spouse lives in Tennessee now. Good question. Had that come up this week. The general rule in Alabama is that you have to be a resident of the county in which you reside for 6 months, 19 years of age, sound mind, competent, to file for divorce. Now, let's say you're high profile. Let's say you're a doctor, a physician, lawyer, Indian chief. You don't want to file in the county where you make your living. You can actually, if it's uncontested, we can file your divorce case in any county in the state. We can even file to have your divorce case sealed if it has financial issues, if it has infidelity issues, things that you don't want your clients, your family, your relatives, people you do business with that can go on Alicord and look up your divorce filing. We can seal it by public record. We do that a lot of times to protect the names and innocent. So that's a good question. We always get those questions. Yeah. Generally, you have to live here 6 months in the state of Alabama, or if you live out of state, you can agree to be a party and interest in a divorce case in Alabama and surrender to the jurisdiction of the court. You do that at your own peril. I had one of those cases where the spouse lived in North Carolina. Guess what? I wrote in the divorce agreement, all future modifications will take place in Alabama. So I have him for life here in Alabama. Also had a question come in, child support modification. I think my husband makes more money now than he did when we first divorced. How do I get an increase in child support? What do I do? This happens routinely, weekly. The general rule is if there's a increase or decrease of 10%, you're entitled to a modification of child support. Good news is that our child support forms and guidelines were finally modified a few years ago. They haven't been in decades. The numbers are a little better for child support. But if your husband made $50,000 5 years ago, now he's making $62,500, you're probably entitled to an increase. It's worth going back to court to get a little more money. You need it to raise your children. It costs a lot of money to raise kids today in Alabama, in any state, in any jurisdiction. That's a really good question. We get those all the time. And it's still divorce time, folks. We're still teeing them up. Had a guy call me this week, Mr. Ingram, when the tax refund hits after January the 31st, after I file my taxes, I'm coming to see you first. Yes, sir, I understand. It's about 6:47, Birmingham. This is the Legal Lowdown live with Joe Ingram, the road-running street lawyer here for you. You can call us 205-439-9372, 205-439-WERC. If you need an investigator like the lady, Anna Grace, that just call Spy for Rent. Spy for Rent, Spy for Rent. They use good tools. I use them. Corey, Jeff, they're the best at what they do. They really are. We talked about some stories in the news this week. Have you heard this, folks? Jennifer Aniston, Barack Obama had dinner. I don't know. Salacious. And then Kevin Costner has maybe a new girlfriend. I don't blame Kevin. His wife divorced him. She thought she was going to take him to the cleaners. She didn't get hardly anything. He got everything because he had a prenup. He had a really good prenup. After you have that much money, you get a prenup. But Kevin Costner may have a new girlfriend. Kevin has had the most beautiful women in his life. And his movie, Field of Dreams, is still my favorite. It's a baseball movie. It's about your dad. It's about a dream. It's about hope. If you build it, he will come. If you build it, he will come. They always come. Whether it's a business, whatever you build, if you build it the right way, if you believe in something, they will come. And then the best part of the movie is at the end. He sees an earlier version of his dad. Dad, can we have a catch? Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. Maybe Iowa is heaven. The cornfields, the smell of the grass, the smell of the dirt. It's a baseball stadium with lights, kind of like minor league baseball. It's beautiful. Also, 1st of February, for baseball fans, pitchers and catchers report. I don't know what it is about February. I don't know what they do in February. Pitchers and catchers report in February. Okay, it's about 6:49. We're live. Maybe you've had a cup of coffee. Maybe you're waking up, Birmingham. This is the Legal Lowdown Live with Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer. Call us 205-439-WERC, 205-439-9372. Questions at joeingramlaw.com. Questions at joeingramlaw.com. Great guest at 7:05, David Drinkwey, out of Chicago, criminal lawyer, fighting the good fight every day in a city where nobody goes to jail. Remember Jesse Smollett? He was convicted. The appellate court kicked him out, said, you don't have to go back to jail. Think of all the money he spent in Cook County, Chicago. And the prosecutor that was personally bought and paid for by Barack Obama. He got off the hook. Unbelievable. Can't make this stuff up. Anyway, it's 6:50. I hope you're having your first cup of coffee. We have made it through January, folks. February is a breeze. February is a walk in the park. And when we get to March 1, the days are longer and the sun gets brighter, and it's sweet home Alabama for us. Like Kid Rock. Every time. This is the Legal Lowdown Live, January 25th, 2025, with Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer, the road running lawyer. Have about an hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to be Seabiscuit live on the streets. Coming in. We have somebody calling in. Matt, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
What's your cup of story this morning, Matt?
Well, I've got a wife. She's estranged from the family. Come to find out her father, before he passed, to set up this irrevocable living trust. So she's starting to get a check on an annual basis. And a friend of mine that happens to be an attorney was saying that, she's got the right to know everything about this trust. And we don't know square one where to find out any information about it. And it's, her sister's the executrix that she isn't talking. So just wondered if you had any suggestions on that.
Is the trust in Alabama?
No, sir. It's in West Virginia.
Okay. Does the sister live in West Virginia?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Do the sisters talk and get along?
Not at all.
There's your issue. When did the parent pass away?
About a year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago.
And he'd set it up about 6 months before he died. So it's been a couple of years that we've been getting that K-1 and a check.
Did they have to probate the estate?
No, mother's still living.
I thought you said mom passed away.
No, dad passed away. Mom's still living, but sister's executrix.
Dad had passed away. So the estate is in dad's name.
Yeah, the trust was in mom and dad's name.
Okay. Well, is mom coherent, or is mom just letting daughter run the show and everybody drawing a check?
Daughter's running the show.
Okay. Do y'all know who the attorney is?
No idea. We've seen something from the accountant once, but that's about it.
Well, you're going to have to do a back trace. You probably need to get either a West Virginia lawyer. It's probably where you should start, somebody that's licensed in the state that can help you, and do some back tracing. Are the K-1s good?
The K-1s seem to be going through IRS all right.
No, I mean, is it good money?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's more than my wife ever made when she was working.
Okay. But you don't know the parameters. You don't know how long she gets it. You don't know what the value of it is. You just
very, very little, just getting a check. Yeah, for a significant sum.
Well, how old is mom?
She's 75 to 80, up in that range.
Okay.
So she could live a while yet, for sure.
Is she getting do you know if everybody's getting equal amounts, or is she getting the lion's share of the money? Surely she is.
Yeah, surely she would be. The only thing we'd heard was that when mom passes away, it's a 40-40-20 split, with 40 going to each sister and 20% to charity. We did hear that somewhere along the line.
What do you mean you heard it?
Well, her mom had said something about it at one point. Okay. That, you're still our daughter, so we're still giving you this money even though you're estranged. And, I said to her, well, you could have given it to all your favorite cat charity and we wouldn't have known the difference. And that's where she says, well, you're still my daughter. And, when I pass away, you're going to get 40% of it. Your sister gets 40% and 20% is going to charity. That's one of the conversations we did have with mom.
Okay.
But as far as how it's invested, how much is in there, any of that, we have no idea.
Is there any? Presumably they're filing a trust tax return if you get a K-1.
Correct.
Is there any chance that sister's self-dealing, or you don't know?
And no idea. Yeah, and we don't trust sister as far as we can throw her.
Yeah. Matt, you ought to call me this week. Seriously, call the office, come in. It may be worth just to have a consultation to see if I can help you in any way. Okay?
All right. I sure appreciate it.
All right. Matt, thank you for calling in. Where you live?
I live up in Cookeville, Tennessee, actually. I'm a truck driver down here listen to you guys all the time.
Okay. Well, Matt, thank you for listening to the show. Is it any good for you?
Oh, yeah. I enjoy it. Anything I hear from you, advice from an attorney any way I can get it, it's good advice, my book.
Okay. Hey, we're about to go to weather and traffic at the top of the hour. 7:05, we'll be back with our guest. Folks, wake up, have your cup of coffee, join us. This is the Legal Lowdown Live with Joe Ingram, the street-running lawyer for you. Come back, top of the hour, okay? We got you. We're going to break.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right, Matt. Hey, you have a great day. Keep that trucker running.
You too.
All right.
Yeah. You can keep running yourself. All right. See you now.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the show, being a guest. All right.
No problem. Bye now.
All right. We still live? All right, well, folks, we're going to go to the break here at 6:58. We'll see you top of the hour with our guest, Chicago lawyer, great criminal lawyer coming up. We'll be back. Thanks. Bye.
There's another hour of the Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's lawyer Joe Ingram heading your way. You can ask your question live on the air at 439-9372. That's 439-9372. Or send Joe your question for air via email at questions@ingramlaw.com. If you need a private legal consultation, contact Joe directly at joeingramlaw.com. Stand by for more of the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram right after news and weather on News Radio 105.5 WERC.
The proceeding has been a paid program. The opinions expressed are those of the host and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of WERC, management, employees, or advertisers.
This is what's happening.
The birthright citizenship ban challenged by a federal judge.
Yeah, obviously we'll appeal it.
The very latest.
To make America the world capital in crypto under your leadership.
We're going to make a lot of money for the country.
At the top and 30 past the hour.
Senator Josh Hawley concerned about FEMA corruption.
Stay current.
There's going to be, sadly, more hurricanes, more fires, and that's just life.
Check in throughout the day.
I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil.
News Radio 105.5 WERC.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
Amazing line workers from Illinois whose heartwarming gesture towards some local veterans makes the Dean's List. A gathering of folks who served our country in various branches of the military got together at Riley's Smokehouse to catch up. An ice storm had not prevented them from meeting up with each other, but the venue was packed with people, including some line workers who were there to help fix the power lines. As the veterans were enjoying their breakfast, the crew from Ameren, Illinois line workers approached the table to thank them all for their service. The veterans were touched by their words and later found out that the line workers had paid for all of their meals. One of them shared the story on social media and wrote, "We greatly appreciate everything the Ameren, Illinois line workers did for us, not just for restoring power in our community, but for thanking us for our service and buying our breakfast. Hopefully someday we can meet up with them to say thank you very much." Janice Dean, Fox News.
Covering Trump's first 100 days every day.
We stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history.
News Radio 105.5 WERC.
News Radio 105.5 WERC Birmingham, WERC FM Hoover, and available everywhere with the iHeartRadio app. It's 7 o'clock.
Violent crime is a major concern in Alabama cities, and lawmakers say they've got a plan to fight it. Jim Faraday with more.
Expanding the use of metro area crime suppression units comprised of state and local officers. It's in a bill that will be introduced early in the upcoming session, says Republican former state representative Paul DeMarco.
The success of reducing violent crime in Montgomery should be used across the state, particularly in Birmingham, where you had the record number of homicides in 2024.
He says it's an approach that will work elsewhere.
We can really drive down crime across the state of Alabama.
The session starts in a little more than a week. I'm Jim Faraday.
Nearly 41,000 federal workers in Alabama are affected by President Trump's order for federal workers to return to work in the office 5 days a week. That doesn't include uniformed military. The practical impact, about 17,500 federal workers back in the office. The Alabama National Guard is reflecting on its winter storm cleanup, especially South Alabama. Lieutenant Colonel Josh Henderson calls it as tough as anywhere in the U.S.
I was raised in the Wiregrass. I got reports they had 10 inches of snow on the Florida line. New York, Pittsburgh, 10 inches of snow will shut anything down.
The Guard spent hours on major roads aiding drivers and helping determine when roads could reopen. Now it's releasing responsibilities to local jurisdictions. An Alabama service dog is basking in the limelight after starring in a popular TikTok video. 5-year-old Paisley Landreth has diabetes, but her golden doodle service dog Tracker used his nose to find her after the snowstorm in Madison, Alabama. Tracker detects problems 15 or 20 minutes before technology does. The video shows Tracker alerting the family. I'm Charlie O'Brien, and this is Birmingham's news, traffic, and weather station, News Radio 105.5, WERC.
For today, mostly sunny, a high near 49 degrees, lows near 29. For tonight, we'll stay dry during the day tomorrow, a high of 48, increasing clouds, a chance for rain tomorrow night, a low near 38. Showers move out early Monday, some leftover clouds, a high near 51. Still dry on Tuesday, highs in the 50s. And for Wednesday, more clouds, a chance for rain Wednesday night. I'm WBRC First Alert Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt on your side.
Right now, it's 22 degrees at Birmingham's news, traffic, and weather station, News Radio 105.5 WERC.
As President Trump takes office,
Under the orders I signed today,
a flurry of executive orders are flying off his desk.
we are establishing the External Revenue Service, designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We will end the Green New Deal and drill, baby, drill.
Keep it here for the very latest.
All of this will change starting today.
News Radio 105.5 WERC.
The following is a paid program. The opinions expressed are those of the host and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of WERC, management, employees, or advertisers.
He's a tough street-fighting lawyer with the highest ratings for honesty and integrity. He's here for you every Saturday morning to answer your legal questions and get you the help you need. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's lawyer, Joe Ingram of Ingram Law, live from the studios of News Radio 105.5 WERC. Call in now, 439-9372. That's 439-9372, and ask Joe your legal question, or email the show at questions@joeingramlaw.com. Joe Ingram has more than 20 years experience fighting for his clients here in the state of Alabama. Joe's focus is criminal defense and family law. You don't have to face your legal issue alone. You've got Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer, on your side. In case of sensitive legal matters, you can always reach out directly to Joe at joeingramlaw.com and arrange for a private consultation. And now, Birmingham's defender of the defenseless, protector of the people, and all-around good guy, Joe Ingram.
Right. It's 7:07 a.m. in Birmingham, Alabama. This is WERC 105.5 FM, just off the campus of UAB in Birmingham. It's January 25th, 2025. It's 23 degrees outside. Folks, today I'm running like Seabiscuit until I collapse. I haven't run all week. We're about to have our caller call in. Our Chicago criminal lawyer. He's really good. You're going to enjoy this, folks. You better get your cup of coffee. He's going to have some good stories, good questions. I've talked to him a couple of times. We have a mutual interest. And from Chicago, can't wait to hear the weather up there. David, you there? David?
There's no way not to be when it's bordering 0 degrees outside.
What is the wind chill?
Let's get into that real feel with the wind chill. Yeah, we are definitely under 0 this morning. So I'm awake whether I want to be or not. As soon as you open the door and or open a window, you're awake. There's no other way to be, and you're ready to get to work.
Oh, David. Okay. David, thank you for getting up and doing this for me.
Oh, my pleasure. You know what? I've got 2 little ones at home. Again, maybe even beyond the weather, whether I want to be up or not, when you have a 5-month-old and a 2.5-year-old at home, you're up on their schedule.
Does your wife work?
Well, yeah, I would say she works even more than I do, because she is at home with the 2 of them each and every day when I get to sneak out to go and do the day job.
Yeah, she's got a 24/7 job.
That is the truth, and she will remind me of it anytime I choose to talk about my job. But that is the truth.
Okay. I got to speak with you this week, David. First of all, I want you to tell the Birmingham audience a little bit about you, your background, your pedigree. There's 2 things that I think are absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, my. Well, I can tell you that as a starting point, it always sounds like it's some part of a sales pitch, but it's true, is that I've wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to do what I'm doing today since I was 6 or 7 years old. I was that kid that in preschool and in first grade, when you were asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would say I wanted to be an attorney, and that really never wavered. But when it comes to the professional life, other than my 4 years in undergrad, I've otherwise been in the judicial system. I've been around trial courts since the age of 22 in some professional way or another. If that was as a judicial clerk for about 7 years, if that was working as a law clerk within a law firm itself, in and around and for attorneys, and then of course then starting my own firm a little over 5 years ago. I've been in and around courts, in and around trial practice now for a little over 18 years now.
Yeah, David, talk about Jeff Fieger.
Oh, absolutely. Having grown up while I am now in Chicago, I actually grew up for the most part in Southeast Michigan. So a little north of Detroit. I went to law school in Detroit, and the name in Michigan is Jeffrey Fieger. And that is one of the attorneys I had an opportunity to work for and under and around, and Jeff is just an incredible attorney, somebody who's I'm not really sure is rivaled by many, at least in an individual capacity, for success, and then just cases that you undoubtedly will have heard of in one capacity or another, both on the civil side and as a criminal defense attorney. He's worn both hats in Michigan.
And his most favorite, probably, or notorious client was Dr. Kevorkian, Dr. Death.
Exactly right. And that's in part what put him on the map. And a lot of people may forget about this. Like, those were criminal cases, of course, when he's representing Dr. Jack Kevorkian on a number of cases in these assisted suicide cases. And Jeff, again, put himself on the map by winning a number of them and beating the Oakland County prosecutor numerous times, and then parlayed that success into many, many other. Jenny Jones' murder trial, where she handled the civil component to that, a number of other civil jury verdicts where he routinely set the bar for new record-breaking verdicts in Michigan, one of which was when I was a law clerk in Oakland County, Michigan, and I'm going to approximate the number here, but it was the better part of a $176 million birth trauma case that happened when I was in the room while I was a law clerk.
How long did you work with Jeff Fieger?
With him a little over a year, and it was in 2 different capacities. His first based out of Southfield, Michigan, so he takes files nationwide. I did some work there in Michigan, and then when I originally came out to Chicago, another attorney who is of counsel to him, who largely is his kind of tip of the spear as it relates to birth trauma cases. His name is Jack Beam of the Beam legal team out of Chicago. I came out here and then had direct contact and worked with Jeff on these birth trauma cases.
So, did you ever do any of those cases? Or
I did. Yeah, very, very early on in the career, as a young associate, when it came to working the file up and going to depositions and meeting with physicians and taking some of their depositions and working through how to read a fetal heart monitor strip and getting into the drugs and so forth that are administered during a pregnancy. That is really where I got my feet wet, was in birth trauma and then medical malpractice more broadly. So getting to understand, the science, the medicine, and being around some pretty sophisticated people is where the career started, but that's not where it ended up, because my heart was elsewhere, and that was with criminal defense.
Did you ever get to see Jeff make any serious money?
Yeah, well, beyond the one that I was actually in the courtroom for, again, I was actually in that room. I took the jury verdict in Oakland County, Michigan. There were a few others in Cook County, and I think in part this is what brought me out here, was another big win just before I was brought on in Chicago, and that was another, I believe that was another $75 million birth trauma victory that he had. And I believe at the time, because now we're going back almost 10 years, that was yet another record-breaking verdict for that type of case in that jurisdiction. So Jeff has his name tied to some of the biggest verdicts, not just in Michigan, but in multiple states and multiple counties. He is notorious, depending on what side of the V you're on and what you may think of those types of cases. People know who he is, and heads turn, and you start to hear the whispers when Jeff would walk into the room.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
He's quite the character. If you ever have an opportunity, if somebody were to ever be in Southfield, Michigan, and go to see his firm, the building, unless it has changed super recently, it is covered. The walls are covered with photos of Jeff and different celebrities and politicians and so forth. Is largely a kind of a tribute to himself. He does have a bronze bust of himself in the lobby. It is something else, I'll tell you that. And but I like it. It does make me laugh, but at the same time, Jeff has earned that. If anybody deserves to have their own bronze bust, it would be Jeff Fieger.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being the king of your castle if you've earned it.
This is true. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And that may rub. I liked it, to be perfectly honest. I'm like, you know what? This guy has earned it, but it definitely can rub the opposing counsel. Some people may slay people the wrong way, but then at the same time, he's earned it, both on just success in the courtroom. He ran for governor in Michigan. Now, a lot of folks may not be aware of that. It was unsuccessful, but he did run for governor. He has got himself in a little bit of hot water here or there with some of his comments about the Michigan Court of Appeals. But it is darn funny, I'll tell you that. You look up some of the quotes, you Google him, if you don't end up with a smile ear to ear or a little chuckle, I would defy you to avoid that. It'd be very difficult. He's a funny guy.
He is a funny guy. But Dr. Death, lawyer, is your calling card.
Yes, absolutely. You lead the conversation with that. That's exactly right.
All right. So let's talk about David. David's running Chicago now.
That's the goal. That's it. I can tell you in a little less than 5 years, I went from quite literally, I knew no one. I came out here for a very specific job. Realized that's not really where my heart was. It was a great experience. I learned a lot. I was fortunate to be able to come out here, but wanted to do criminal defense. but I didn't know anybody, and this would be my first foray out on my own. But I can tell you, 5 years later, a little over that, I'd like to think kind of the name here in Cook County, and people certainly know who I am, whether they want to or not. Obviously, on radio, this doesn't always play as well. And you can't tell the voice, but I'm about 6'9", 280 pounds. So I'm the biggest presence in the courtroom pretty much anywhere I go. But in Chicago criminal offense, I'd like to think now that we've gone from total obscurity to kind of being the name here.
That's great, David. Let me ask you this. We talked about this before you called in. Jussie Smollett. Cookville.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of twists and turns that go into that, not the least of which involve what is now the former state's attorney for Cook County. It's Kim Foxx. That there was a lot of ins and outs. Obviously, there was a great deal of national publicity because, he was a black actor who was making, not just allegations, outright crying on national media about being potentially hung and that there was rope around his neck and wasn't a noose and guys were wearing MAGA hats at 2 a.m. on Wacker Drive. And as somebody who's in downtown Chicago, I can assure you that is not a regular occurrence. But it was a huge story. And it pretty quickly after it was realized that there may be a bit more to that story, kind of swept under the rug locally, about what criminal charges he could be facing. And they kind of came up and then went away. And as more public pressure began to rise, when more people realized that, wait, what's going on with this? The story may not be true, and he was charged with something, some sort of obstruction and so forth. Why isn't he in court? Oh, because he paid a fine, and there was maybe a sweetheart deal with the state's attorney. Then it was reopened. A special prosecutor was brought in, and they actually went through the process. And that's where I trust many of your listeners, at least those that are aware of the criminal component, that he was eventually was convicted and was sentenced to a hefty fine along with jail time. That all came after a lot of legwork, I would say, from the general public and applying some pressure and making sure that justice was done.
Yeah. And then he got out of jail. It went up on appeal to the appellate level. And then the appellate level, did they totally reverse it or just suspend the jail time? Tell me that.
Yeah, there's two components to that. In the short run, yes, they had suspended it because it was not a lengthy sentence, admittedly. He was going to do basically just what we would call CCDOC time, Cook County Department of Corrections, as opposed to likely to go to the Illinois Department of Corrections for any real amount of time. And because it wasn't that long and the appeal was going to take some time, that was suspended. He was able to get out. And now we're going, maybe within the last 2 or 3 months, they've come back and largely set that aside, the conviction aside, in principle, because of this original deal that Kim Foxx, the old state's attorney, and Justice Smollett and his attorneys were able to work out an agreement where the state effectively dropped the case for the state retaining his bond money, because at that time, Illinois did still have cash bail, and Jussie had fronted not insignificant money. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they basically agreed, hey, we're going to keep this as in part restitution, in part, a fine, and we're just going to let bygones be bygones. And that is not what the general public wanted to have happen, but that was unfortunately the deal the state had cut with them ahead of time. And they basically tried to try him again for the exact same case, and that was a big no-no in the eyes of the Court of Appeals.
So he won.
In the long run, yes, I would say at least in the court of law he has won. Where his reputation is now, I trust, is nowhere what it once was. Obviously, he was on some very successful television shows. He was kind of a young man whose career was on the rise, and then went through this. And I think, this is my own theory, of course, but that he was going to again parlay out this alleged racist, hate crime into further notoriety and further opportunity for, television and movie shows. And then when it came out that pretty clear that he was the ringleader behind this, and it set this up with a couple of confidants, friends are an overstatement, people that he had worked out with and were part of his circle. I think his reputation is kind of irreparably damaged in most circles, is kind of untouchable, would be my guess.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. We talked this week. You're in the murder capital of the world, essentially, kind of like Birmingham. David, how do you make a living? Because everybody knows you don't go to jail in Cook County, Chicago, Illinois. Well, how do you sell that to your client?
Well, it depends on the client now, but because there are so many murders. I mean, that is both truthful and just sad to have to articulate, because it's where I reside, or at least near where I reside, is that, there's still the potential for a loss. It may not be the highest percentage outcome in many of our cases, because of some of the deals that we're able to work out, and certainly under the old administration, when they are far more into restorative justice, I believe was the word that Kim Foxx would use, and very big on second chances and very soft on an awful lot of types of offenses. Murder was still one that, if the evidence was there, you can be facing the rest of your life in prison, and rather than doubling down on the public defender, they would find someone that actually had success on the cases, and that would be, myself and a handful of other individuals that you would routinely see in court. What really could affect, called the bottom line, or my ability to have clients, was living in Cook County and serving Cook County or the Chicagoland area, was how the state's attorney would routinely not charge certain types of offenses. And so if you're going back to the George Floyd times and COVID times, which probably make all of us shudder a little bit, just how few of the retail thefts or burglaries or property damage cases were left uncharged by the state's attorney. So these were not opportunities for a criminal defense attorney to get involved, because there were no criminal charges to defend. It definitely is a unique place to reside and to work.
Hey, David?
Yes.
We're going to go to break here in 4 minutes. I want you to think about, when we come back, have you got just a few more minutes with us?
Absolutely. No problem.
When we come back from break, I want you to tell us about one of your famous stories. Protect the names of the interest of the parties. But you're talking to a Birmingham audience, but it's all the same. You just change the names to protect the innocent, wherever you are.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about one of your greatest victories and one of your greatest losses, because you learn everything from losses. You learn nothing from winning.
That's true.
That's how I look at it. You learn from failure every time.
I absolutely, I agree with that. And I go back, and it's one of the reasons why I enjoy what it is that I do so much, is that there are winners and losers. I'm a competitive person. I play collegiate basketball. I'm so competitive in most of the things I do in my life, which maybe to the chagrin of my wife, but it's one of those outlets. And it's absolutely right, where I go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, what did I either do wrong? What did I underestimate or not understand? Or, what is it that the trier of fact, the judge or the jury, ended up hanging their hat on? And, did I not consider that correctly? Did I not argue it the way I needed to in order to persuade them to come my way? And that's exactly right. I learned far more in losses than I do wins.
Yeah. You do that in everything in life. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. We're about to go to break. We are with David. Is it drinking? Correct me, David.
Well, sure. Phonetically, how we'll break it out is Drew like you drew a picture, wick of a candle, key, Drew Wiki.
Drew Wiki.
Nothing like what it looks like spelled out, unfortunately.
I butchered it so bad. David, tell the audience your website and your phone number. Somebody from Birmingham may be coming through Chicago and commit a crime. Tell us about you.
Sure. Well, we are based in downtown Chicago. The website is www.drd, those are my initials, drdlawllc.com. And you can call us directly 24/7 because you never know when you're going to catch that case at 833-DRD-WINS.
DRD wins. That is great. Good stuff. All right.
Nothing wrong with having a special phone number, and hopefully somebody remembers it just when they need it.
Oh, I think a lot of people need you, David. I think I've looked you up. You're a winner.
Well, you know what? I think there's a reason why we find ourselves together here. And, what do they say? Birds of a feather. I'm just kind of treading in your wake here and trying to get to your level.
No. All right. We're going to go to weather and traffic and weather here at the break. It's 7:29. We'll be back right at 7:30, 7:31. We are with Devin. We are with David. Say it again, David.
Drew Wiki.
Drew Wiki of Chicago, the Chicago criminal lawyer. Dr. Death, stick with us. We'll be back. Bye.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather on News Radio 105.5 WERC.
Your week.
The golden age of America begins right now.
Happened here.
The flick of a pen. At our southern border. Two genders.
A once-in-a-lifetime snowstorm hits the South.
Stargate January 6th. Full party.
New infernos are torching Southern California.
Ice raids in Boston.
Another executive order.
Let's make America the world capital in crypto.
Declassification, John F. Kennedy.
Every day.
A new sheriff's in town.
24/7. It's a golden age. News happens for special interests. News Radio 105.5 WERC.
Violent crime is a major concern in Alabama cities, and lawmakers say they've got a plan to fight it. Jim Faraday with more.
Expanding the use of metro area crime suppression units. It's in a bill that will be introduced early in the upcoming session, says Republican former state representative Paul DeMarco.
The success of reducing violent crime in Montgomery should be used, particularly in Birmingham, where you had the record number of homicides in 2024.
He says it's an approach that will work elsewhere.
We can really drive down crime across the state of Alabama.
The session starts in a little more than a week. I'm Jim Faraday.
Nearly 41,000 federal workers in Alabama are affected by President Trump's order for federal workers to return to work in the office 5 days a week. The practical impact, about 17,500 federal workers back in the office. I'm Charlie O'Brien, and this is Birmingham's news, traffic, and weather station, News Radio 105.5 WERC.
For today, mostly sunny, a high near 49 degrees, lows near 29. For tonight, we'll stay dry during the day tomorrow, a high of 48, increasing clouds. A chance for rain tomorrow night, a low near 38. Showers move out early Monday, some leftover clouds, a high near 51. Still dry on Tuesday, highs in the 50s. And for Wednesday, more clouds, a chance for rain Wednesday night. I'm WBRC First Alert Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt on your side.
Right now, it's 22 degrees at Birmingham's news, traffic, and weather station, News Radio 105.5 WERC.
News Radio 105.5 WERC. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app for all your news, music, sports, talk, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's lawyer, Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts, specializing in criminal defense and family law. Call in live with your questions now at 439-9372. That's 439-9372. Or write Joe with your question for the show at questions@joeingramlaw.com. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right. It's Saturday morning, January 25th, 2025. It's about 23 degrees outside, 105.5 WERC FM. We're back with our featured guest, Chicago criminal lawyer, used to work with Jeff Fieger, Dr. Death. David.
In the house.
In the house. David Drinky. David, tell us your greatest criminal story.
Okay, I would say the one that I like sharing the most actually occurred in a loss, but it was trying to snatch a victory from the absolute jaws of defeat. And what it was not surprisingly in Chicago, it was a murder. And that murder was caught on tape. The tape, maybe not the best quality, but good enough. There was an eyewitness. And very much to my chagrin, the client, when ultimately picked up based on the testimony or the information provided by this eyewitness, decided that it was a good idea to give a statement. And that statement was, for the better part, an admission, putting himself at the scene and explaining what had happened and why he had a gun and so forth. Fast forward better part of a year and a half to 2 years, we're getting set to go to trial or negotiate out a plea. Naturally, my advice in the moment is, listen, we have an admission. You're on tape. There's eyewitnesses. This is not good for us. This is unlikely to be a case we're successful with. We should probably be taking a plea. He refused. He wanted to, enforce his constitutional rights. He wanted to hold the state to their burden. And I found myself in the midst of a trial with all of that evidence being held against him. The only real silver lining from my perspective, at least from the defense side, is that he had a co-defendant, and the co-defendant was definitely the one who really stirred on this shooting at a gas station. He's the one who shot first. He's the one very clearly was kind of the lead man in this. And through the course of the trial, I really never tipped my hat as to what my final argument was going to be. It's just chipping away here and there, weight and credibility of some of the witnesses and the evidence that they had, perhaps some of the confusion about what my client was talking about in this interrogation, post-Miranda statement. And then in my closing, this is where I finally bring out the argument, if he'd been charged under accomplice liability, or what we call in Illinois accountability, that, whether it was his idea or not, he was along for the ride. He did discharge a firearm. He's as guilty as this other guy, kind of irregardless of how much he participated. So my argument in closing is, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there are two victims in this case. Now, one is the ultimate victim. It's, the gentleman who was killed and is deceased. But the other, in his own way, is my client. And it's that, my client told you what happened, why he was down there, and explained why he had a gun, and that there was no plan to be shooting anyone. And the only time he brandished a gun and pulled it and ultimately fired the trigger or fired this gun was after the co-defendant went rogue and started firing the gun himself. And my client, maybe not in true self-defense, but is responding to a situation that he was not planning for, was unaware of. And because he is a victim under Illinois law as it relates to accountability, he cannot be a part of this conspiracy or be an accomplice. And went and sat down. I told my client even before I stood up to do my closing, just wait for when I tell them, tell the jury that there's going to be some furious writing to our right. And that's exactly what it was. The state wasn't prepared for that argument, had no idea that's where we were going with it because it's not an affirmative defense. And about 8 or 9 hours later, while the jury was still deliberating, the state started to make offers, and they were nervous on a case that I know they believed it was going to be a 15-minute verdict. You know, in their eyes, we've got an admission, we've got eyewitness, we've got video, we've got everything we need to button this one up in a matter of minutes. And hours went by, and they started to make offers. And unfortunately, my client doubled down, and ultimately he was convicted. And the jury was just convinced that because he walked down there with a gun, that he certainly was aware that there was a possibility that this was going to go sideways. And because part of the plan was to tune somebody up, maybe in a physical way as opposed to shooting him, he was convicted. But in that moment, I learned a great deal, not the least of which is that my advice was correct. Going to trial was probably the wrong idea. But that beyond that is that there are creative ways, even in the worst scenarios, to argue things, and having a firm grasp of the law and some of the nuances of it. I mean, in my eyes, that's the job. But all too few attorneys would have done that type of legwork. They would have given up, realized the amount of evidence against their client, and either just refused to go to trial and withdrawn, or would have just gone through the paces and seen the client lose, basically conceding the points that they had to, and losing within 15 minutes. But that's one of them I'm pretty proud of, even though it didn't end in victory.
Well, he had a good lawyer. That's a victory in itself. Every day in a civil or criminal courtroom is a good lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes the difference. There are really a lot of folks. I run into this during consultation sometimes, especially when we get to the point of talking about the cost of services. And we do have a public defending service in Cook County. Not every jurisdiction has that. They're, well, if I'm eligible, why don't I just go with the free attorney? I could pocket some money and save that. Like, y'all are the same, right? Y'all went to law school. You passed the same bar. And while that is partially true, we all are attorneys, and they're licensed, and they did go to law school, and they did pass the bar. A private attorney and somebody like myself, I don't have 500 active cases. I'm not bogged down by being just given every person who walks into a specific courtroom or court building the client because they can't afford it or choose not to hire an attorney. I get to work with people who want to work with me, and they get to have that personal touch. They get to deal with me directly. And at the end of the day, I'm very passionate about this. This is my livelihood. I'm not being paid by the government. I'm being paid by clients, and taking L's is not a way to grow a business and not a way to grow your reputation. So in order to get the future clients, you got to serve the current clients correctly and get wins, and that spreads. I can assure you that the phone calls I receive out of the jail from names I don't recognize all start the same way. Like, you're representing, or you had represented somebody on my block, and they have nothing but good things to say about you, and that's flattering, and the results speak for themselves. Just within the last 60 days, we have a double homicide, a sex assault, a domestic battery, a simple battery, that have all gone to trial, and we've won all of them. We're on a winning streak that I have no intention to break if I have anything to do with it.
Winning fixes everything.
It does. That is the cure-all.
I had a lawyer tell me in December in court, Joe, why are you obsessed with winning? I said, how did you get to be where you are? How many cases did you put on your board that were losses? I'm not kidding.
Oh, that is something. I mean, that is the whole job. That's my mentality and psyche, or whatever you want to chalk it up to, is that there are winners and losers. And while I may have mellowed in some respects since I'm being a teen and dealing with losses in maybe a less than professional and adult way, it still does. It burns me. We talked about this a little earlier, that we learn more out of those losses. And in those evenings after a loss, and it certainly does, it does happen, is I'm back in front of my computer. I'm re-reviewing. I've got a shelf of books here about cross-examination and trial strategy and opening and closing and the psychology of a jury and so forth. And I'm getting back into that, and I'm reanalyzing, the way I looked at the case and my own performance, because people put their trust in me specifically, but in us as attorneys. And there's a winner and a loser. Very infrequently do we have the split the baby or real a compromise in our kind of cases. That you win big or you lose big in the kind of cases that I represent people on, because you're either walking out the front door with me and going to lead the rest of your life, or you're going to go out the back door and perhaps for the rest of your life. And that is definitely not lost on me when I'm working a case up.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, David. David Drewinke, Chicago criminal lawyer. Probably the best in Chicago. David, if I ever get up there, we're going to go to Wrigley Field, watch a baseball game.
Absolutely. On me, come on down. We just hopefully not sub-zero temperatures, and you never know in the Midwest that even for spring ball, among other things, are getting later in the season should the Cubs make the playoffs. You never know what you're going to face. But it was a pleasure being here. I really appreciate it. It was great chatting.
David, thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope your wife was patient with me and your two little ones. And I hope you have a great week, okay?
Absolutely, you too. It was my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity to come on.
All right, David. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, guys, it's 7:45. This is Legal Lowdown Live with Joe Ingram, Birmingham's lawyer. We have a caller, if she's still here. Rhonda, you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Rhonda, where are you from? What's your cup of coffee? What you got?
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And my question is, my husband's mother died in December, and there's a will that the three children are supposed to split it equally. And his brother was the administrator. Well, he named her co-administrator. And now they're bringing all their children into it, and they want it divided with them because that's what she wanted. The will states the three of them. There's a savings account that he's not on, but they were put on it because she was legally blind and got dementia, and they put themselves on it. And he asked about being put on it, and they said, well, they lived in the towns that she was living in, so they put themselves on it to pay her bills. And now they're not wanting to tell him what's in it. They're saying they got to wait 6 months for all her hospital bills to come in, which she had insurance that usually always covered all of them. And is it criminal to steal from a will? And does he have any rights to that money since his name is not on that savings account?
Well, that's one of these questions, Rhonda, is called It Depends. But I had a case in 2003 sort of like this called Barron versus Scroggins. It went up on appeal to the Alabama Supreme Court. And the nephew was self-dealing, paying his bills out of his aunt's account because he was on her checking account. But he did have to pay the money back to the account. And, he could have been prosecuted criminally if we really chose to. My client really didn't want to go down that path. There may be some options there. I don't know how much money's at stake. I don't know if your husband can afford a lawyer. But it might be something worth to explore if you're interested.
Yes. The will states that the three children are supposed to divide it equally.
Well, then you go by the will.
Yeah. And I think they're thinking because their names are on that savings account and his was never added, which he asked about, and his mother kind of had to mention, she said, well, you'll get your share. They'll share it with you. And the only reason he wasn't on there because he didn't live in the towns where they were living. But, they hired sitters and all to take care of her so they wouldn't have to. And now they're not wanting to divvy it up with him.
Well, a savings account, just like a joint checking account, passes outside of probate generally. It does, unless you can show bad conduct, self-dealing. And then you're going to have to go back and see, well, you said that your mother-in-law was blind. She had dementia. I bet there's a really good chance she didn't know what she was doing.
No, they wouldn't tell her how much was in her account either. She would ask.
How much money are we talking about, Rhonda?
About $90,000.
Okay. How many? And there's 3
Plus
children.
Another CD. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Who's probating the estate?
Well, she just named her son as administrator, and he's passed it down to his younger sister. And he said, I made her co-administrator. I don't even know if you can actually legally do that.
What? Do they have an attorney doing it?
No, they have no attorney. There's no attorney involved whatsoever. No,
I don't know, Rhonda. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
I know years ago my parents got an attorney to have to get some of their share of a will. The same thing happened to them. I think statistics say 67% of brothers and sisters, try to take more for themselves when it comes down to money and wills.
Yeah. The body doesn't go cold, and everybody starts picking the pockets.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it many times.
She said that there's a $4,000 bill come in from Medicare. Well, she had the same surgery, hip surgery, 4 years ago, and there was none of these bills coming in. And now all of a sudden there's a $1,400 bill and a $4,000 bill. And I told my husband, I said, you're going to need to ask for these bills and receipts to the accounts, and then you'll know for sure if these bills really exist or if she is making it up.
Well.
And she's saying that you have to wait 6 months to divvy up the money.
Yeah, you have to wait 6 months to close out the estate.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure that they'd have to pay any of those bills to Medicare or Medicaid. Not sure about that. They can file a claim, but the judge can disallow it because it's federal money. It's federal insurance. But anyway, if you or your husband are interested, call my office this week, joeingramlaw.com, 205-335-2640. If you want to talk about a consultation, it may be worth your time or your husband's time, okay?
Mm-hmm. All right. We sure will. Thank you.
All right. You have a great week, Rhonda. Thank you for listening to the show. Thanks for being a caller. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a great day.
You
All
too.
right, bye.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. We've had an interesting morning at 7:50. If you're just getting up, it may be 24 degrees. The days are getting longer. The runs will start getting longer. I'm about to be Seabiscuit here in about 12 minutes as soon as I can get to my car and get to Mountain Brook Parkway. I'm going to run until I drop like Eminem, until I collapse today. I'm not kidding. I'm going to run until I collapse. I haven't run in about a week. I don't care. I don't care about the weather today. We had a Chicago lawyer, great lawyer, worked with Jeff Feiger, national lawyer, represented Dr. Death, Dr. Kevorkian. Remember him? Love that man. He's ahead of his time. You should be able to die your own way if you're going to go out. That's my opinion. We talked about a lot of legal news this week, locally, nationally. Oh, I forgot to say something. Somebody reminded me. Kevin Costner, Jennifer Lopez supposedly are dating. Those two? I don't know about that. I think Kevin Costner could do a little better. He's had the most beautiful women in his lifetime. He can get anybody he wants. And Jennifer, she's been married 4 times. She's got twins. She was married to Mark Anthony. She's married to Ben Affleck. Folks, you don't need to get married anymore. You got that kind of money. You don't need to get married. Just have friends. Just be friends. It's 7:53. This has been a great week for me. I've enjoyed this so much. We're getting good feedback. If you have any issue that we can help you with, civil, criminal, plant, animal, vegetable, call us. We'll help you. We have some cryptocurrency cases that have come up this week. Those are coming. We have some AI cases coming. We have some drone cases in the loop coming. We also have some really big cases that we haven't talked about that we're going to start talking about in the coming weeks. We're going to be talking about both civil and criminal crimes that happen in fraternity and sorority houses in every campus in the state. I've represented people that were working in a fraternity house that got hit with a full can of beer. Can you imagine somebody throwing a beer can at you like a fastball? That's like a rock. Knocked his eye out. They didn't want to pay him. The fraternity house took 6 months to serve them. They had an insurance policy with Lloyd's of London. Who does that? $20 million? And you knock the guys out and you don't want to pay them? We also have sexual crimes that happen at sorority houses and fraternity houses every day that are not reported, that are swept under the rug. Folks, that's why we're here, is to start shredding some of these layers back on crimes, civilly and criminally, that are happening on these campuses all over the state. There was a case at UAB about a girl a number of years ago. She was 16 years old. She got raped repeatedly. That case got swept under the rug fast, really fast. And so now we're going to go to my parting word of the week, the final word. Everyone has a struggle or a problem in life. It's how you deal with your problem. For me, my greatest struggle in life up until about 3 years ago was fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear to take a leap of faith, which we do every day, every week, and even on this broadcast with you. This is my struggle, but I love every minute of my life and even the opportunity to share my message and testimony and hope with all of you. Fear was the greatest factor in my life. President FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in 1933 at his inauguration speech stated, "There is nothing to fear but fear itself." 43 years ago, in October 1978, Pope John Paul II stated, "Do not be afraid." Surely, if a president of his time and a pope says, "Do not be afraid," folks, do not be afraid to try in your life to be the best version of yourself every day. Whatever your dream, whatever your goal, go for it. If you don't try, you can't win. If you don't risk, you'll never get it. You'll never see the rewards. If you can't enter the race, you can't enter the prize. If you say you can't, you won't. Go do it. Say it, what you'll do. Do it. Live your dream. Live your destiny. So if you have a dream, write it down, make a plan, set benchmarks, work your plan every day, every week until you reach your goal, until you do something. You have to do something for 30 days before it becomes a habit. Running, brushing your teeth, losing weight. How many of you are up to date on your New Year's resolutions? 25 days into the year. I have overcome my fear. I live each day to the fullest. I am grateful and blessed. I never work a day as a job. I have my life work, which is to help my fellow man and to help you. This last week, I was at the shoe shop. I paid somebody's shoes. She sent me a card in the mail. So, if you live in fear and failure, you learn nothing. You learn nothing from success. You learn everything from failure. According to George Clooney, this is Legal Lowdown, folks. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being a guest. About to go hit the roads. Have a good week. We're out of here. Have a good week. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Legal Lowdown with Birmingham's own Joe Ingram of Ingram Law. Don't forget to follow Joe's Legal Lowdown podcast on iHeart. If you need a private legal consultation, reach out to Joe on his website, joeingramlaw.com. Tune in again next Saturday at 6 a.m. for the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, exclusively on News Radio 105.5 WERC.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by any other lawyer.